What's up homies, this is my very first Black Ops 2 tips and tricks video for you. So this is kind of like pre-multiplayer tips and tricks because it doesn't really have to do with gameplay, but it's got some very important information on different menus and settings you're going to want to have set up before you start getting into multiplayer. Some of this stuff you may already know about from previous Call of Duty games, but there's also some new settings that are very important to improve scores and KD ratio overall that are going to help you play the game better. I want you to know about them and have them set up to give you the best multiplayer experience possible. Let's get into it. So first of all, your sensitivity. Now sensitivity has actually changed from what they've ever been before. They're different than they've been before. What you want to do before you go into the game, system settings. Now the usual setting for sensitivity of the controller may not be there. The Wii Remote pointer may not be sensitive enough or it's too sensitive. In system settings on the Wii U gamepad, go into remote and sensor bar, then adjust the Wii Remote pointer setting. So maybe it's the case of the Wii Remote sensitivity is determined here as opposed to in visual games. You can have it from 1 to 5. Maybe it makes a difference, I'm not really sure, just pointing this out to people who are having difficulties with their Wii Remote. Try a couple of different settings, see if it makes any kind of difference whatsoever for you. Now what you're going to know about are obviously the options you can set up. If you want rumble off, if you want your button layout as alpha, anyway moving on. Go down to options and then target assist. Make sure it's enabled. A lot of times it came disabled by default, so turn that on. Next is player name indicator. There are 3 different settings here. I like abbreviated best, it just depends on how much of the screen you want taken up by players' names. Next is colorblind assist. This will be helpful for some people more than others. I prefer to have it on. I think the colors with that just stand out a little bit more, makes it easier to see. Now the next other thing you might want to do is change your audio settings. These are going to make a huge difference. You want to kind of play around with these a little bit, and this is going to be a lot of personal preference here. So if you didn't know, if you have a headset or you like to play a lot of Search and Destroy, towards the end of games or towards the end of rounds in Search and Destroy, when the timer starts counting down, it starts playing music, and that can oftentimes be very annoying because you can't hear bombs being defused or you can't hear footsteps or things like that, and often it can mess you up and make you lose the game. So if you don't want that music to start playing, you want to be able to sound halt, all you have to do is turn the music volume down right there, and the music will not play at the end of rounds. Now what I do is, I usually leave the SFX, which stands for Special Effects Volume, all the way up. This means that things like gunfire, explosions and footsteps are all going to come out louder than everything else in the game. Now the last thing you want to do in here after you get these right, and it may take a little bit of time playing around and just adjusting those to see what you like best, now go to the presets. There are several different ones here. The 2 best to actually be able to hear footsteps in this game are the headphones and Super Crunch setting. They make the footsteps much more audible, but you also need to have the awareness perk, which is kind of like SitRep Pro, which makes footsteps louder. You really need awareness when you're doing this. I highly recommend big powerful bass speakers or some good headphones. Good Turtle Beaches or Trident should be able to do this, which can be very useful. But I do believe that this will help you. I don't normally sound horn much, but I know a lot of you in previous games were very dependent on the audio, and in Black Ops 2 they made it really hard to hear. And with these settings with the awareness perk, it's still considerably harder to hear. I'd also recommend running Dead Silence with it too. That's pretty nice. So that's about it. My recommendation is that you play with audio settings and find out which one you like best. If you like headphones or Super Crunch, but those are the 2 that I definitely recommend. Again, everybody's going to have different headsets, different speakers, but turning down that voice and music really helps. And then the Super Crunch and headphones will also very much help. If you're a Search player or have a headset, you might want to think about that. Now another thing these games always have you do is set up the brightness, and often they recommend you have it so that the top box is not visible, the middle box is barely visible, and the bottom box is easily visible. I think this is the best settings for a campaign, but if you're playing multiplayer you want people to pop, and you want to be able to look in dark alleyways and in corners, things like that, where there are dark areas. So you want to have the brightness up a little bit more. That's typically what I do. I like to make it so that the top box is barely visible. That is what best works for me. Yes, the colors are washed out a little bit, but it makes people pop out easier and it makes it easier to see, so you definitely want to do that if you're interested in playing multiplayer. Now moving on, the load by default. This is also very important. If you're totally into multiplayer or a huge zombies player, set it to either multiplayer or zombies. That way each time you load up the game, it will automatically go to that game mode. It won't go to the main menu where you have to select zombies and then wait like 5 seconds, then finally get into the game. It automatically loads up zombies or multiplayer, saving you time, which can be very useful. Now down here you can change your reticle. Most of the crosshair options are back. Moving on, getting into Black Ops 2 online, to voice chat you can save yourself some money if you have any audio playback device with an inline mic. There's a 3.5mm jack on top of the gamepad where you have to plug the microphone in. Here's a demonstration. Currently there's no mic plugged in, so I'm going to plug this in, and then there will be a mic detected. Now there are a couple of things that have changed in the menus. Now one question I know a lot of people are going to have is, how do I put weapon cameras on my guns? There are no weapon camo here. When I select my gun, it doesn't let me do anything. There's like no option for camo here. What you do is hover over your weapon and then press whatever button appears next to personalized weapon in the bottom right of the screen, and that's where you get your weapon camos. Same thing goes for secondaries, personalized weapon, and it brings up your weapon camos. So that's how you do it. Now other thing is if you have an optic attachment, if you want to customize your reticle, again you select reticle and it will bring it up. And this is where you can change around reticles and things like that. Now one other thing you can do is, if you press the button next to personalized knife in the bottom left of the screen, camos on your knife. You can see all the challenges you need to unlock them. That's that. Now one other thing that a lot of people don't know about is the new combat record. Normally before you had one calling card and one emblem. What you can do now is, when you look at your combat record, you can have up to 3 calling cards in your showcase. And you can also have a profile shot if you take a screenshot from theater mode. You can edit your showcase. You can press the button next to clear showcase slot in the bottom left of the screen to delete them, and you can select whichever calling card you want. Definitely check that out, it's very customizable. Now I finally want to point out to you, and this is by far the most important part of this video, if you go into your public match and find a match, press the button next to search preferences in the bottom right of the screen, and you can go and edit your search preferences for all public matches. This is very important. By default it's going to be on normal. You can have it on any or on best. So normal will search for a match and it will find you one decently quickly, and it should be an okay connection. It's not going to be the best, it's not going to be the worst. It's going to be right in the middle. Anyone will find you a match in the quickest way possible, so you won't spend so much time in the lobby. But it might be a bad connection. It's going to accept anything and everything coming its way. And then finally, best is going to make you wait longer in the lobby, but it's going to keep searching for the best match possible to give you the best connection possible in that game. Personally, I would recommend setting your search preferences to best. Overall, you should be getting a better experience, you're going to be getting a better connection, and your bullets may register better. Now I'm going to show you how to play 2 players split screen. 2 controllers, one on the gamepad and one on the TV. The first thing you want to do is actually not be in a lobby. You don't want to be searching for a lobby. You see, it's not working for me. So what you need to do is back out of the lobby. Once you've done that, next thing you want to do is actually connect the controller you want as player 2 and hit A. And once you do that, this little screen will come up, and what you want to do is scroll down to the bottom option, which is sign in additional player. And what this will actually do is bring up another screen which asks which user you want to sign in. In this case, I'll just play as guest, and you can also play 2 player as a guest, but if you actually have a Nintendo Network ID under another user account, you can use 2 accounts and actually level up on that account as well. 2 players at the same time on 2 completely different screens, so you have 2 full screens. That's pretty much to it. That's what I've got for you there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I realized it was kind of basic, but there were some very important things in here, and I'm hoping I was able to teach you something new and you'll be ready to take on multiplayer whenever you start playing. So that's it for this video. Hopefully these tips have been helpful for you. So after you do this, leave a comment, let me know if it helps you out. Hopefully it has, and thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe. I hope that you learned something useful. And now as always, if you thought that this was a good video, you enjoyed the content, or if you found this useful and learned something from it, please don't forget to go ahead and like, favorite, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. That would be great, and thanks again for watching the video. I'll see you later. Peace out.